tell the people what part of your body you're going to start tanning.
We talked about this a long time ago. Taint tanning.
Taint tanning.
Taint tanning. God, say that fast. It's kind of hard. But I heard about it from you during like COVID when it was like you get health benefits from it. And like
Apparently. We're not claiming the health benefits. This
I don't
is all
know
alleged.
Yeah. But I was at a dinner party this weekend. And one of my friends was talking about it. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I remember that. Like, it sounds so woo-woo and weird. Yeah. And then she looked at my sister's fiance. I was like, I think he does it. He's like, what? And I like got so offended when we explained it to him.
I just feel like if you get that defensive, it means you're doing it and you're insecure about it.
Yeah. You tane your taint.
Claim it. Claim it.
Tan your taint. I know. Super funny. But yeah, I was thinking about that a lot. And I just think that must be awful and so uncomfortable.
Quite the sunburn, quite the liberating experience, I imagine. I have yet to do it. I said I was going to do it.
Yeah.
I think I'm still nervous to have anyone come that eye to eye with my taint. Be it the sun, be it whatever God rules the sun.
If I can't see what you're looking at, if I've never looked directly at the body part to which you will be looking at, which is why I'm so nervous about my butt. That's why. It's like, because I don't know what you're seeing.
Yes.
That's
exactly.
terrifying.
I don't know where you're going.
Yeah. Where you're going, where it's been. And I don't know. I don't get the health benefits from it.
Yeah. So maybe what we do is we put full-length mirrors on the ground separately. This is private moment.
This is private time.
And then you stand over it. And then you just slowly lower yourself down until you're in a tanning position. And you see what's going on.
How do you look at your butthole?
I haven't.
Have you ever?
No, I actually haven't.
Oh,
you either?
Never. Never.
How
have,
do you
never
look
will.
at your butthole?
So I
With
have
a small
one of
camera.
Those. I record the entire time. I start from my navel and I scoop right around to my taint and pass my taint to my butthole and in. And in. I have to. It's a whole thing. I have a little handheld mirror, and so when I'm standing, I put one leg on the counter and then I just put the handheld under there.
You like what you see?
Never. It's never. I never do. It's actually scary. I get like embarrassed for myself looking at it. It's your butt.
She didn't do anything to you.
She's done a lot to me. I've tooted in the night from her.
Yeah, that's true.
I watched our last YouTube episode today because I love watching myself.
Yeah.
Shocker. Shocker, I love the attention. And my favorite is when you said 2 crotches passing in the night. I thought that was really
And
funny.
if that isn't a teaser for our YouTube exclusive episodes, I don't know what is. So make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube so you see where all the action's at.
Yeah.
Because 2 crotches do miss in the night. And that's Emma's experience with 69ing. And I think you want more.
Yeah. My boyfriend today was like, you steal all my jokes. And I'm like, I do not. He's like, I heard them in the episode. And I was like, I write my own stuff.
I write my own stuff. Just because I write it through you doesn't mean shit.
I'm sorry you were there for that, but like I still wrote it. The money goes to me. It's my name on that tagline.
Mine.
Anywho.
So fuck off. We don't pay men.
No, we don't. Today, we're not talking about buttholes. We're talking about these butthole feelings that we sometimes get.
Yeah.
Which are that of codependence and being stressy.
People pleasing, insecurities, asking for what you want, all of it. The incredible Victoria Albina is back and answering all of your questions this time because it's not just about us.
As much as... Oh,
no.
Never. I didn't ghost write all these questions. What do you mean?
What do you mean? I didn't submit them in the little box on my Instagram story.
I would never. That's sabotaging my business. No, but we did answer, or we had her answer some of your guys' scenarios, questions, concerns, and I did throw one of mine in there, I'll admit. But it was so good. After we left our last episode with Victoria, we started talking about all the ways that we feel like codependent. We're like, holy shit, all these scenarios apply to so much more than I would have thought codependence would have.
Exactly.
And so that's why we felt it really, really important to bring back Victoria.
Absolutely. And we're going to bring her back again.
We're gonna cast take 2.
We're gonna bring her back again,
yeah,
of course. But even if you didn't submit a question, even if these aren't your questions, these aren't your specific scenarios, like Emma was just saying, I feel like they're applicable to literally every aspect of your life. If they aren't,
I don't care.
Fuck off.
God, I really don't give a
I
shit.
get it. You're perfect. I get it.
I get it.
I get it.
You're not insecure.
This unfinished wallpaper behind me explains
God,
that I'm not. And that's okay. It's hard to put wallpaper in corners.
Human error.
Human error.
We're going to try, though, after this.
Yeah.
So, after this episode.
Yeah.
On that note.
Ew. That was scary.
It was scary. I didn't like it.
We should do an ASMR episode where we just laugh like that for an hour.
I love ASMR.
That's asthma, right?
I don't think so. Asthma, you have to whisper. Oh. Okay, we'll see you on the other side.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so hi, my name is Victoria Albina. I use she, her pronouns, and I live on occupied Munsee Lenape territory, also known as the Hudson Valley of New York State, just north of New York City. I am a functional medicine nurse practitioner, a master's certified somatic life coach, a somatics and nervous system complete nerd, host of the Feminist Wellness Podcast, and breathwork meditation facilitator. Are those all my words? Did I remember all my words?
All your words.
That's a lot of words.
You rattled them off perfectly.
Oh my God, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
We had so much fun.
Me too.
And it was like jarring and also amazing talking to you about like codependence last time. And we just knew we had to open it up to our listeners to see what their questions were on this, because I feel like we got our therapy session and we want others to get theirs. So that's what we did. And we got a great amount of questions. So I think we'll just start by diving into those. Okay.
Perfect.
So this one is a scenario. So we'll start off there. This is now the question. This is me. I have a higher libido than my spouse. We talk about sex abstractly, but not about our sex life. I've played Honey-Do Me for him in hopes of promoting conversations, but it feels one-sided. I struggle with fear of rejection. So when I try to explain what I fear, he will say he can't, won't. In times I have been able to open up, he says okay, but doesn't follow through. I feel disconnected and even resentful at times.
Yeah. Gosh, I am just sitting here thinking how many inner child parts must be getting kicked up in there, right? Around rejection, abandonment, being othered, right? So if we think about the human, our subconscious desire is for connection and significance, right? In order to feel safety in the nervous system, we need to know someone cares about us. We are significant to someone. We matter in this village, right? In this, this collective of humans who has each other's back, and we need to feel connected. Our nervous systems need to co-regulate with someone else. And so if our sexual desire, our libido feels different from that of our partner, so much of that can get kicked up in worry and fear around those conversations and being othered, right? That fear of being told like there's something wrong with you, your desire is unnatural. That's sort of negation of core self. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So where to go from there is, first of all, really pausing and recognizing that you've done so much in recognizing what is up for you and the complexity of this, and that having that awareness that like a rejection abandonment wound is getting triggered is friggin' enormous. Like even just being able to name that and know that is huge. It's such evidence of presence, and it's really to be celebrated. So really starting there, and we, from our codependent mindsets, we skip over that step of celebrating ourselves for the little bullshit, right? Because it's not little bullshit. Life is made of the quotidian bullshit, right? Like all those little goddamn moments where you wanted tea and you went and you got yourself tea. Celebrate it, but like for real. So you had this awareness, you wrote in about it, you're advocating for yourself, you're asking for support, actually celebrate it. Yay. From there, I have found in my life that the more I have my own back, not in some like bullshit rug. I'm just gonna say bullshit every 2 seconds. Does that work?
I love it.
Apparently that's the word of the day. Okay, cool.
Vibe.
Right on. So right. Knowing you have your own back, not in some rugged individualist kind of energetic, but rather from under a place of understanding. When I have my own back and I can support myself and I can regulate my nervous system, I can come into a conversation, particularly one as potentially triggering or activating in the nervous system as one about sex with my partner. And I can come to that conversation from that regulated place where I've got my own back. I feel grounded in me. I trust my desire. I trust my longing. I trust my urges. Like I know what I'm about, and I support myself in it. I potentially even like these things about myself, and I encourage liking these things about ourselves. But I'm just giving folks some runway to get to there eventually, right? And when we come into conversation with a partner or partners from that place, we can then ask them to co-regulate our nervous systems, which means to help us ground together. But we're not looking for them to do the job of creating safety within us, because we came into the conversation from that safety. So then if your partner says, babe, I'm actually I don't want to have sex more than X times a week. Like my libido is not about that, right? I'm not interested in that kind of sex. I'm not interested in playing with that or working with that. We get to have our own backs. And this is where thought work comes in as well, right? We can use the thought work protocol that I teach on Feminist Wellness, my show, and in my programs to help ourselves to decide what we want to think ahead of time. So going into this conversation, I will express how many times I want to have sex a week. If he says X, I can anticipate that. And I can go in with the thought, it's okay for him to have his own libido. It's okay for him to have his own hormone balance. It's okay for him to have his own nervous system. It's okay for him to have his own desires, his own what, right? And that has nothing to do with me. And when I have that thought, I will feel calm and grounded. The action I will take will be to have my own back. And the result of that for me will be to feel really safe with myself and to be able to show up with a full heart for my partner in these conversations and to talk about what the best next steps are for him, for me, and for us as a whole, whether that's opening up the relationship, working with a therapist together, finding a compromise where we can try one new thing a month, whatever it is, but really going into that from a grounded sense of self and not that old codependent people pleasing. Oh God, if he doesn't approve of me, then I'm doomed and I'm worthless and everything's wrong with me. And
yeah,
yeah,
that resonates deeply. And I feel like the way you described it in the beginning with being scared and, because like I can understand the rejection, but I guess I'd necessarily wouldn't have tied that with like that inner scaredness of not feeling like I could connect and like be grounded with someone. But that makes a lot of sense. That is scary. Like we talk about rejection being scary, but it also, that hit different the way you explained it.
Yeah, right on.
I'm wondering a little bit more about the last part of the question where they say that their partner will say okay, but then doesn't follow through. And I know that in different parts of my relationship, if my partner doesn't follow through on something, I then start to feel like I'm nagging. And then I feel like I take on this role that I don't want to, and that I feel like is almost a stereotype of like the nagging wife. And then I feel even worse about it. And then I'm like more mad at him for making me take on that role.
Right.
But then I'm also mad about the original situation.
Sure. Right. And I think we can strike a big difference here when we can talk about both between when it's like nagging around housework, right? And labor that is not shared in the patriarchy, generally speaking, right? Which is one whole conversation. And then the reminders around sex. Like you said, we were going to try this and you would initiate it. Right. So how does that feel for your hearts to have those as two separate moments?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Also, because I think in the patriarchy, initiating is generally coded and taught to humans who are socialized as men versus humans who are socialized as women. So that's also right. We can bring a really different contextual framework here. But I think what's really important in these conversations is not to leave things open-ended. And I think that's where that codependent anxiety of like, okay, who's going to do it? What am I going to do? I don't want to be a nag. I don't want to, right? Like all that indirectness, which is part and parcel of codependent miscommunication. That is what happens. And so really making sure that you're leaving those conversations saying who's going to own it, who's going to do it, when are they going to do it, even sitting together and setting a timer on your calendar. And in that, like really doing the work potentially together, naming it together. Like I can imagine having a moment of being like, are you fucking kidding me? Like we have to set a sex timer to like, right? Like put this on the, like, come on, it shouldn't have to be like this. And I think we can, that just creating space for that and holding space for that bit inside of us of like, are you fucking kidding me? But like doing it anyway and really assigning roles and assigning responsibility and just being as direct as humanly possible about it and writing it down and getting concrete so that it's not, so that there's less of that push and pull within our hearts of like, well, but he said he would do it, but then he didn't, but then I actually, who really, I don't know. And, but I want it, but he said he would, right? Mm-hmm. So when it's like, okay, on the 15th, we're going to do a thing and you're taking ownership for bringing that up. Okay, babe, do you consent? Right? Because that's another part of this is what happens often is we're not in codependent thinking and behaving. We're not having clear communication around roles and around jobs, around who's doing what. And so when codependent ways of thinking are part of our mindset, we just take on doing everything, but also resent other people for not doing everything, right? It becomes this like wild morass of nagging and disappointment and frustration because it keeps us in that story that no one will ever show up for us. We're wildly alone. We're not worthy of love, right? And as long as we're in that victim mentality and that martyr mentality, then it's proving our story about the world. And that feels safer than having that story disproved. So we don't give other people the opportunity to show up for us.
Fuck.
Well,
shit, man. Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Me open a little bit.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Cool.
Thank you.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right?
And why, I mean, yes, planning to that T could be tedious at first, but we've brought that up so many times with either scheduling sex or being very clear about what you want in bed and, you know, explaining your feelings. Like, why wouldn't that also apply to this situation as well?
Sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Damn.
Right.
That whole like codependent, like you keep just taking on because it's easier to be the victim.
But then nobody shows up for you.
Yeah. It's like okay, great.
Yeah. It's shocking how people don't show up for you if you don't ask them to.
Yeah.
It is. Right?
I'm
so wild.
I'm always floored.
Always floored. Yeah.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay.
Next scenario.
Next scenario. Let's get into a little more people pleasing. So this scenario reads, my boyfriend and I are both huge people pleasers. I think we have great sex, but sometimes I worry that he's not asking for or getting what he wants, even when I ask if he is. What are some ways that I can ask him about things he wants that don't trigger his tendencies to please/accommodate or say, it's all great, I don't need anything? What can I do to ease my anxiety and actually believe him when he says he doesn't need anything else because maybe it is great?
Yeah. Ooh. This is, you know, there's got to be some leaps of faith in here, right? The only thing we can do to hold the most loving space possible for our partner to step out of people pleasing and into their truth is to be direct, open, honest, and then decide that we are going to trust them and let them know that. And I recommend doing it out loud, right? So if you ask your partner, is there anything I can do for you? And they're like, no, I'm good. But your gut, your empathetic intuition, your everything is like, bullshit, you're just people pleasing me. You can choose to say, right? Like my intuition is telling me otherwise, but you're an adult. And so I'm going to honor what you say. Right? I'm taking you at your word. And when it hasn't been historically what you've been up to in conversation, really naming it can be really helpful. Like, all right, babe, I'm doing this thing where I'm practicing really taking people at their word. So if you tell me you're good, I'm no longer going to be asking follow-up questions. I'm no longer going to be asking a second, third, and fourth time. I'm no longer going to be offering other things. I'm no longer going to be doing this work effectively for you. So if you want something, I am so here for it. I think it's so hot when you ask for what you want and need. Like, it's a real turn on for me. Bring it, but bring it. Like, I will ask you once and that's it. So that's what you can expect from me now. And what I want to know that I'm getting from you is your honesty, right? Because not telling me what you want is not being honest. And I want a relationship based on honesty. And so I'm not going to pester you, and I'm going to expect you to be honest. Can you hang with that?
Wow.
But also, like, can you hang with that? Like, that's what's happening from now on, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
here's your invitation to show up. That's all you can do. And if someone is not, and I wasn't available, if I'd heard that from a partner 10 years ago, I would have been like, right?
Sure thing to say.
Right? Like, ew. But I can hear it now and I can say it now. So if someone's not able to hear you or unable to meet you, it might just be, they don't have the skills and tools yet, or they're not in a place in their growth where they're available for that. They're not regulated enough in their nervous system yet, right? Like, it doesn't mean to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but it does mean that there is some collective growth needed. Not needed, because you don't have to grow these ways, but that might be supportive for you if you're someone listening to this and is like, yes, I want that.
Yeah.
Then to get to there's going to be some growth that's needed. Yeah.
Cass and I were talking about that in a different way, in a much meaner way. We talked about this question. We were like, but it's kind of the same vibe where they give us an answer and we're like, but I know I'm right. And I'm saying that you're not okay. So just talk to, like, I don't think we've said that out loud necessarily, but that's how we feel, where it's like our intuition is telling us that you're not. But if I keep asking you,
right,
that's going to be annoying to you. I don't want to get the truth because I've asked 17 times.
Sure.
So that was a great question to wrap up things that were in my head as well that I just, I guess, didn't put into words.
Yeah. And I think it's totally legit to like say what your intuition is telling you. I, of course, from a place of feminist consent, don't ever want to assume I actually know what someone else is feeling. Right. So I'm really careful and thoughtful to couch it. I had an ex who would do that. It would be like, you feel this. And I was like, oh no.
Oh, the fuck.
Oh, the fuck you shan't. Like, you fucking shan't be telling me what I feel. And like, whatever, they were right half the time, but like, fuck you for even, right? Like, hard no, hard boundary on that. Anyway, but like saying it, phrasing it like, my intuition is telling me that you may feel this, right? Oh, another one I love. Is it possible that you actually want a blowjob and you are a feminist and you feel like that might be degrading, so you don't want to ask me for that? Like, is that possible in this moment?
I really like that phrasing.
Yeah, that's such a good one. And just leaving it. If someone is unavailable or doesn't have the skills and tools to meet you, like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm here to hear you, but I cannot hear you if you don't voice it.
Right.
Right. And to that point, like, let's honor neurodivergence. Let's honor histories of stress, distress, and trauma. If someone feels deeply challenged to say it out loud, can they write it down? Can you hop on Signal and can they send you a text about it? Right. What can you do to open up the lines of conversation where they're maybe not speaking, if that is like in their nervous system? What else? How else can we do this? That's sexy. That's fun. That's not sending us into a trauma response, perhaps, or into a shutdown dorsal vagal nervous system response, right? How can we be more loving and hold more space? And if they need to embroider, like, I would like cunnilingus on a pillow, and hand that to you every time they'd like you to go down on that, like, great.
Right.
Right. And if that can be the bridge to there, then like phenomenal.
Yeah. I would like a pillow that says that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's available. Etsy is a whole wild world of delights. I'm sure.
So throw a pillow
Right?
that has it written.
It's also like such a great winter pastime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just sit and embroider.
We should embroider.
I believe that we should.
Okay, wait, what if there was like honey do me like embroidery kits that were like you asking for what you want in the bedroom? Like
that
blowjob, please.
Cute.
That's
right?
so cute.
That's really cute. Like a stencil of like different
yes. Right, with the little embroidery floss.
I am in love.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how
We're
amazing. Right,
That
right.
was
Really
really fun.
That's so good. I love that.
Supportive.
So supportive.
Right?
Opening lines of communication. Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And the more you can do it with the embroidered pillow or the post-it note or sending a signal, like eventually your nervous system will start feeling safer. And you can start to say, I want the thing written on the pillow while looking away.
I want
right?
That one.
Yeah.
Right. That one. That's the one. Right. And towards the goal of looking at someone, you know, and saying directly, here's what I want.
Right.
Eventually. With peace and love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I do really appreciate all the different ways you gave us to ask what somebody is feeling, because I am definitely guilty of asking my partner 20 times, what's wrong? What's wrong? Because something just seems off. And then I get frustrated. He gets frustrated. And I imagine that would build resentment towards me on his end, because that would be really frustrating for somebody not to trust you. Regardless of if something is wrong, he doesn't feel like telling me in that moment.
Right.
And so as much as that frustrates me and as much as I want something in the moment, it's like, that's actually not my right.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Sure. And permission to coach.
Yes, please.
You're only asking 20 times because some part of you, some inner child part, some part of your nervous system believes that that is what will source safety for you. Right. So guilty of, like, are you available to step away from that framing and maybe begin to hold space to see it as some part of you that feels scared or that needs support or doesn't feel safe when your nervous system is picking up dysregulation in his nervous system because he's your attachment figure, right? That part of you, right, doesn't know how to regulate itself and how to connect in with your most grown-up adult. And so it feels like it needs safety from him that he's not able to give you. So of course it's freaking the fuck out because it loves you and doesn't want you to die.
That clicks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Always permission to coach.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Love
Cool.
Permanent permission.
Okay, great. I love consent. I love to get it. Love to give it. So,
This
yeah.
next inquire kind of feels like it's in the same vein. And this listener wrote in about like the fear of being cheated on. So I feel like that's also with this like weird intuition, inkling that like something could be happening, but maybe it's not. And, you know, you're going into these partnerships or friendships or whatever with this fear of being like cheated on or abandoned or betrayed in some way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this comes back to clear communication and regulating ourselves again, right? If someone is going to cheat on you, they are going to do that. And there's absolutely no amount of snooping, of reading their shit, of stressing yourself out, of pestering them. Like, there's legit nothing that you can do to prevent that. That's not how that works, because folks cheat because they are cheating, right? It's not about the relationship. It's not about the other person. It's about the choices they're making for themselves and their life. So having clear communication, you know, I would like to be mutually monogamous. What does that mean to you? Does that mean that you can send sexy DMs? Does that mean you can follow, whatever accounts? And like, what does that mean to you? What does emotional infidelity mean to you? What does emotional fidelity mean to you? What, right? Like getting really detailed on these things so that you can make sure that you're on the same page. Because someone else thinks like flirting, I was just flirting with my coworker. Like I would never do anything. But yeah, we send flirty texts all day because like, ew, we would never do anything. But you're like, that feels like shit. Right? Like really contemplating these things and just being really direct, as you're establishing the relationship is super key. And then folks aren't going to want to hear this, but releasing the rest, like really letting it go, like the thought, the belief, the story that you have any control at all whatsoever over whether or not someone else cheats, because you don't. Right. They're going to do what they're going to do. And so from our codependent thinking, we can get into these dyads where it's me and my partner against the world. And we stop talking to our friends. We stop hanging out. We're just like singularly focused on them and making them our entire life, whether they're doing the same or not. Because at the core, the way I define codependent thinking, it's constantly, habitually, unintentionally sourcing our sense of worth, wellness, and value as animals, as humans, from everyone and everything outside of ourselves instead of from within ourselves. And so from that, we look to our partner to complete us, which like, whatever, let's throw Hollywood under the bus, right? All the rom-coms have taught us that. All the like teen girl books have taught us that, right? Like, oh, he completes me. He's my twin flame, my other half, right? But we fall into that when we don't know how to source secure attachment in and with ourselves. Often when that's not what we got in childhood, right? When attachment was super insecure as children's. And so we look to our partner to be our everything. And then we stop hanging out with our friends and we stop socializing and we stop regulating our nervous systems with other people, right? And we just focus on them. And then of course, if they cheat, your world is completely devastated, right? They've become your everything. Right. They've completed you. They are your half, right? Which doesn't mean, I'm not saying don't invest in a loving connection with your partner, but I'm saying must all the eggs go into the one basket emotionally, physically? Come on.
Basket is rather full.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Might you not have multiple baskets? Right. And that's
weave one.
Right. Weave one. Well, that could be on your Etsy site too. It's a whole basket weaving thing.
Emotional basket weaving.
Right. I love it. It's a whole workshop. We should do a retreat. The two of us, the three of us, right? The you and the me, where we do underwater basket weaving for our emotions. I think it would be amazing.
I think it would be amazing.
I'm so happy you threw in the underwater part.
I think it's mandatory, don't you think?
I do now.
I do now.
Yeah. You're welcome. So
thank you.
Good. Hey, anytime. Right?
We should try out all the things that we want to put in our Etsy.
Yeah. Like oh my God. Right.
Embroidery.
Yeah. We're going to have a blast. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. And I mean, the other thing too is because to the mind with codependent habits, there is such this profound fear of vulnerability and openness, which makes like level sense, right? If you fear you're not worthy of love and care, why would you show your tenderoni heart to people? They're just going to tell you you're not worthy of love and care. Right. Unfortunately, it's the antithesis of what we actually want, which is connection and significance, which only comes with showing our vulnerability. Oops. Right. So we're not being real with our friends. We're not, right? We're not saying, I have this fear that so-and-so is cheating on me. I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it's a fabrication. I don't know if it's from worry, right? And what we need to do is to normalize starting to have these deeper conversations that aren't like trauma dumping on people. They're getting consent, right? Creating a mutually respectful, reciprocal space and having conversations where we talk about our fears and our worries so that we can get realistic feedback, right?
Is there a way to tell the difference between anxiety and intuition?
Oof. Anxiety sounds like this. Oh my God, I wonder if they're cheating. I wonder if I should look at their phone. I wonder if maybe I should check their DMs. I wonder if they left their Instagram on the computer. I wonder if, my cousin's uncle's sister is actually Facebook friends with them, but I wonder if maybe she could check and then it wouldn't look like I could check. Right? It's activated, right? It's pressured. The volume is high or low, right? It has an intensity. Whereas the voice of our intuition is calm, is grounded, is centered, has a gentle prosody of voice, is never pressured, is never anxious, is never worried, right? It just says, hi, he's cheating. And just lets you know what's up. Just lets you know, like, hey, don't turn down that street. Don't go on that second date, right? It's calm. It's quiet. It comes from the gut, right? Versus, stress, distress, and trauma, anxiety, worry, codependency, like these all lead to voices within us that are driven by those energies and are not a truly intuitive thought or intuitive voice, intuitive feeling, intuitive guidance. So I really listen in for that grounded, calm energy. And where I find that, I find my own truth.
So anxiety thoughts can kind of feel like a spiral.
Yeah.
And like a this and then that and then this and then that type of way of thinking.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Where the focus really is the inherent human negativity bias, which let's not diss that, right? Like our brains are set for negative for really damn good reasons. Because if there is a lion in the tall grass, I want to see it. Like I want to know it is a lion. And I would rather have my nervous system say lion when like 5 out of those 10 times it's a tabby cat. And at least I'm like, okay, well, didn't die. Like that's great. Right. Yeah. But the more we can start to recognize, oh, that's always going to negative. That's like intensely negative right off the bat. That tends to not be intuition. That tends to not be internal guidance from a grounded place, but from a stress, distress, and trauma place, which is a place to be honored as always, but not necessarily one to heed.
Felt, resonated. Sitting with. I also wish my intuition sounded like your voice because that shit is calming.
That I know to trust.
That I would know to trust.
Well, you can train it.
Yeah.
It's one of the things we do in Anchored in my program is we talk about like, how do we train ourselves and our intuition to speak in a specific way, in that gentle, calm voice. And then we mark that with a nervous system resource, with a sensation, a felt sensation in the body that lets me know. So for me, it's like little sparkles at the top of my bosom that I'm like, oh, those little like they're that like gold stars emoji. It looks like that. It feels like that. The top of my chest. I'm like, oh, that's my intuition. I've marked it. Like I know, like that I know to be true. That's where that feels like. And so cool.
Yeah. That felt good.
It did feel good. Oh, good.
Felt good to hear.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I think this next question really is the same type of question as the ones we've already asked, but I do want to give it its space, even if it's everything else we've already said. So this person said that their partner has depression and wants to be alone all the time, and they fear that maybe he just doesn't want to be with them.
Yeah, that is challenging. It is challenging. I don't know whether the partner wants to be with them or not, but the partner probably just really doesn't want to be with themselves. Right? Like being depressed sucks. I have been in the dark pit of doom and despair that is very serious depression, and it is really challenging. What's happening is in the nervous system is then maybe this can help with some empathy and love. The nervous system is saying you are not good for the village right now. right? Because if a lion comes, you don't have the activation potential within you to actually punch it in the nose or run away. And so you might lure a lion here, but you're not going to do anything to help the village survive. So evolutionarily, you're a pretty bad bet, buddy. And so you should get to the back of the cave and just hide out there until I don't know what, but not this. And so physiologically, our nervous system in depression is telling us to go into what's called dorsal shutdown. And I think of it as the door of the cave is shut behind you and you're just crouched in the darkness with your sadness. So it is a biological imperative to be alone and isolate when depressed. So babe, it's not you, it's science, right? It's the science in your partner's brain and body. That isn't to negate how you are feeling in response to it. Like it sucks to be depressed and it sucks to be the partner of someone who's depressed. It all sucks. So let's just start with some empathy, some compassion, some care, some love. And this is another place for direct communication. And I can imagine just the vulnerability of asking someone who's really depressed, like, hey, babe, I know you're in this isolating moment. It makes sense that it would be because you're depressed. And the way my history as a human on this planet has led me to have some worries about rejection and abandonment. And also like we're mammals, right? We all fear that. That's normal and natural, right? Because when the marauders come at 3 a.m, we want to know that we will be rescued. So it is mammalian to fear rejection and abandonment. You're not broken. You're a mammal. Anyway, so my beloved, I have this fear because I'm a mammal and because my history. And I want, instead of ruminating on it on my own, instead of worrying about it on my own, instead of projecting my fear and my wounding onto you, I'd like to ask you directly, do you still want to be with me? Mm-hmm. Are you interested in that? Is that something you're available for? Do you want that? Right? Because there's the two options. One, drive yourself absolutely banana cakes, ruminating on your own and spitting on it and going on that like woe is me tornado, which like, hi, I've loved to ride that one. Like, don't get me wrong. Because once you get on it, you're like, this is so fun. The wind in my hair, all this self-pity, right? I'm everybody's victim. I'm not responsible for myself or my feelings. Right? Super cozy. But if you don't want to ride that ride anymore, that's when you get to speak directly and say like, I love naming it. Like, dude, I feel so anxious as I'm about to ask you this because it makes me feel really vulnerable and it makes my belly like it's doing like 1,000 butterfly flip-flops. And I know you're depressed and there's a part of me that's making that mean that you don't love me. And can we talk about that?
It's like yeah.
Yeah.
The way you're saying it makes so much sense. And like, yeah, you would get your answer.
Mm-hmm.
You would get out of this spiral of anxiety and, the ride of self-pity, which I also love to ride. She's fun.
So fun.
It can be a long ride and I like that. You get a lot of bang for your bucks.
You really do. You really do. You really do. Yeah. Yeah. You only destroy like every relationship, mostly the one with yourself in the middle, but
really
like
alone at the end for sure.
Oh my God. But like desperately alone.
Yeah.
And it's the level of like angst and shittiness is so intense. You know what I mean? Like
that's why you just keep writing so you don't have to pay attention to it.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. God, it's so dark. So dark.
What a great comparison for that feeling.
Right?
So funny.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's like the gothest of like you're like the most gothest.
Most gothest.
Right?
So gothy right now. Don't talk
so
to me.
Gothy. Oh my God. Yeah.
Go. No, that's it.
Go ahead.
That's it. I just really adore the phrasing, I'm making it mean.
Right.
That's
so
really helpful to me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Because I love Right. So the other thing we love to do from our codependent thinking is abnegate any responsibility for our own emotions. Everyone else is always creating our emotions. Always. It's always their fault. Right.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean we don't call out systems of oppression, right? The patriarchy, capitalism, white settler, colonialism. Fuck yes. Amen. Hallelujah. Always call that shit out. And he doesn't make you feel guilty. She doesn't make you mad. Right? She may have done some bullshit that was some bullshit, and you're going to call out bullshit. I promised you I'd say bullshit every question. So here I'm fulfilling my duty contractually to a certain cuss word. But right, like she might have done some bullshit that was oppressive that you need to call out, you want to call out, but the feelings you have control over, right? Not the whoosh, initial blush of feeling and emotion from your nervous system. That's animal. But then your reaction to, response to that's where you have so much agency. Right. And again, the fear from our codependent thinking is if we claim that agency, then we got to claim our agency. And if shit doesn't go our way, and right, then it's actually on us. And that feels absolutely unbearable again from that worthiness wound. Right. So I'm making it mean that reminds us, I am telling a story here. I am creating a narrative. This may or may not be true. And it is my truth. And I get to question it and I get to honor it. Right.
Yeah. Making it mean. That's also a very like neutralizing comment, I feel like, to make in a moment when you're having a conversation and you don't know how to like make sure you like, I'm not attacking you. I'm just telling you.
Right.
I'm making this mean.
Making it mean.
You know, and
Yeah.
letting them know where you're at without accusing
Yeah.
them of making you feel that way.
Right.
I like that.
Totally. Yeah.
This next question is personal.
Okay.
I will say that I wrote it. I'm gonna
Okay,
call
great.
myself out on that one.
Okay. Okay.
When I've been in arguments before with partners,
Mhm.
and it seems to be that it might be my fault that we're there in that argumentative situation, instead of owning up, like let's say they say that I'm just being a little bit criticizing and like, I don't know. They're like, you know what? You're doing this thing. I have a habit of saying, okay, then why would you be with me? Or like, why should we keep doing this then? If like, it's just going to be difficult to be with me, which I will say I've said more in the past than recently, but
Okay.
I feel like that comes up as like an initial, like, I don't know what kind of response I'm looking for, but it comes up as like my favorite defense mechanism, and I don't really get it.
Yeah. Let's start with a moment of
Permission to
compassion. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. But like, let's for real start with a moment of compassion for that little part of you that my intuition is telling me has a core wounding of thinking they are unlovable. Right? If your brain goes to that nuclear option of fine, then I'm not lovable. Don't even try to love me. Right? I am unlovable. Is that resonating?
And it also feels so like pick me to say, you know,
of course.
to be like, fine,
yeah,
I'm unlovable. No one could ever love me, which feels so like dramatic because you want them to be like, I love you. And at the same time, you also want to be like angry. I don't know.
But okay, so if we take a moment, and so I'll invite you to close your beautiful eyes or simply lower your gaze. And let's see if we can do a quick somatic practice to get in touch with this part. Yeah. So feeling into that moment where you're in this conversation with a partner, some conflict arises, and a voice within you says, fine then, just don't be with me. Fine then. Where do you feel that in your body?
Like my lower stomach area.
Yeah. What does that feel like? If you really get in touch with it, the felt sensation, is it hot? Is it cold? Is it tight? Is it loose?
For me, it's like tight and cold, but also tight in the way that like it also feels empty. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Does it have a color to it?
Not necessarily
Yeah.
right now.
Doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably where I feel it. And it's all like, I just feel fear, I guess, when we're like sitting with this too.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I wonder what comes up if you ask that part what it wants you to know in that moment. Like, what is it doing for you?
I feel like I want it. This might not be the deepest answer, but I want it to sound like it's my choice that this can't work. Like, okay, fine, then we can't be together. So now I'm the one that's kind of like saving myself out of this situation. And I'm like, fine.
Right.
I'm the one that's doing it. And I'm gonna walk away. So yeah, like control part of it.
Control. Yeah. Yeah. If you feel into that tight, empty, cool space in your stomach, does it resonate as an energy that wants control?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah. So if we ask that part, what is it trying to protect you from? Let's just see what we hear from that energy.
I feel like it's just a fear of like being left.
Yeah.
Being too much to stick around for.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very mammalian fear indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So what could be interesting could be, and we can do it now, or it can be your homework and let me know how it goes, to get into conversation with that part and ask it how else it can feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because we know what its go-to way to feel safe is, which is to try to have control. Fuck you. I'm leaving first. I'm the boss of this. You can't leave me. I already left. Mm-hmm. I'm halfway out the door.
Yeah.
Right. Which we either do by being direct the way you're doing it or by emotionally shutting down. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, okay, fine. Well, if you can't love all of me, then like you won't get me. Right. And then we're in relationships where we're like sitting on opposite sides of the couch, not talking, like that kind of silent dinner relationships. Right. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. The like, I reject you, I abandon you. No one will reject and abandon me. Right. Mm-hmm. But just asking that part, how else? What does it need to feel soothed? Right? How could it feel in control with the initial goal? And I do a lot of this sort of bridging work in my work, because when we're working with the nervous system, if I was like, okay, so just like let that part know it's safe for it to release control and surrender to the universe. Like, how quickly would it double flip me off and be like, abso-fucking-lutely not, you banana boat. Like, you're not trustworthy and I hate you and goodbye. Yeah. Interview over, forever, goodbye. Right? Like, that's not trauma thoughtful. That's not how we work with nervous systems. Instead, we might offer the nervous system, hey, it's cool that you want to feel in control. Totally get that. You're a nervous system. You're an inner child. Like, cool. What is a slightly less damaging way you could do that? Mm-hmm. And sort of slowly work towards, all I can control is me, but we might take 6 months to get to there. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That resonates and feels good. Cool. And I've been trying to like backtrack thoughts of destruction lately. And that feels like a great way to start with that one, especially.
Good.
Yes.
I'm glad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love being coached.
Beautiful witness.
Yeah. Beautiful witness.
Okay. Last question. It's a statement. It's a statement. Go ahead and add a question mark at the end.
Okay, great.
Like, but trying to justify your partner's possibly toxic behavior. And I don't know what behaviors this person is referring to, but maybe justifying a partner's behaviors that don't feel good to you.
Yeah.
And finding reasons for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, but of course you did, right? Like, that's what we do. one of the cornerstones of the codependent thought habit, right? From our definition, it is a profound wound of unworthiness, is of course we tolerate all kinds of, you guessed it, bullshit, because I didn't want to let you down there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any goddamn time. But we tolerate bullshit. We believe that because we are inherently unworthy of love, if we are to get any scrap of love or care, we need to tolerate all sorts of crap to get it. And we have to keep tolerating. It also, again, feeds into that victim narrative that keeps us from doing that horrifying thing, which is being alone with ourselves, taking responsibility for ourselves, knowing ourselves, right? Sitting in the discomfort of the truth of ourselves, because the story about how terrible we are, that outlandish story, is in its way so much more comfortable than the truth of what we don't like about ourselves, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we stay with partners whose behavior, really doesn't work for us because we tolerate it. We also often learned in childhood, in dysfunctional family systems, in codependent family systems, in family systems with emotionally immature parents. And this, again, can be parents who on the outside, like, took us to karate and took us to ballet, and like, even parents who actually did the absolute best they could and just didn't know how to attune to our nervous systems, didn't know how to show up as parents, were emotionally immature, because their parents were emotionally immature and their parents were codependent, right? Like, all of that can mean that we grew up thinking it was incumbent upon us to tolerate all sorts of crap, because children have the one option. And the one option is to tolerate what we're given, because unlike the magnificent giraffe, the phenomenal elephant, the tender young squirrel, like, we are goddamn useless for a solid 25 years. Like, you know what? Like, we don't have a fully formed limbic system until we're about 20-ish, 21. Right. Which means we don't really have a clear and present sense of what is danger and not. Just wild that 16-year-olds can drive cars and like get married. Like, whoa, but that's a whole other conversation. My point is that as tiny baby human animals in that first decade plus of our lives, we have to believe that our caregivers, whether those are biological parents or your auntie or your tia or whomever, your abuela, whatever, to a degree, we need to believe that they are infallible. Because if we believe that they might be terrible, then we introduce the possibility of the belief that they might not feed us or water us or, right, give us basic mammalian care, and then we might not survive. And that is unbearable to a mammal. Mm-hmm. So we learn to tolerate bullshit because it is actually safer to our growing nervous system than to blame our parents. Whoa. Right? Yeah. Especially ages 0 to 7 when the nervous system is forming. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, of course, we have insecure and disorganized attachment. Of course we do, if our parents are not who we need them to be. Right. And then we take that and project that onto our partners. Mm-hmm. Of course we do. What else is a nervous system to do until you learn the skills and tools to do it otherwise? Right. Like, mm-hmm. How else are you going to do it differently? Right. So we need to stop tolerating bullshit. We need to be in connection with others so we can have conversations where we're like, hey, my partner did X, Y. So like, my emotionally abusive ex would refuse to do any housework, like wash their own dish, and then would gaslight me about it. And I was so deep in the being chronically gaslit that I couldn't see it. Like, I really came to believe that I was the problem. Like, oh, you're right. How could I ask you to do your own dishes? Right. Because it was what I was hearing. And oh, wow, there you are, nagging like your mom again, always asking me to do my dishes after you cooked dinner, bought all the groceries, planned all the meals, were the only one working at the co-op, schlepped the groceries up a 6th floor walk up. Right. Like, how, there you go again. Right. And so I was so deep in it, I couldn't see it. And this is why we need to have open, honest, vulnerable conversations with the people we love. Taking us back a couple questions here, it was really by calling my girls and being like, yo, they said this. And my girls being like, no, that's not okay. Because I was so in it, I was like, I guess it must be my fault. Right? So really stepping into the really horrifyingly scary thing of being open and honest and vulnerable is the most important gift we can give ourselves and the people we love, so that we're not tolerating bullshit from ourselves or anyone else, because we're running a check. Right. And I, in this, I'm not saying like, don't trust yourself, don't trust your intuition, like for fuck's sake, the complete opposite. Right. Like, so I was in a relationship where I was wildly disconnected from trusting my intuition while I was making clinically amazing decisions, and I was doing incredible coaching. Right. And when it was about not me, I was giving the most bestest advice. Right. So it's not about doubting your capacity as a whole. It's about recognizing that when it cuts to the quick of attachment, meaning whether our adults were able to show up for us as little children's or not, that's when we leave our prefrontal brain, our executive function capacity to show up as that most bestest thinking part of ourselves, and really revert into animal, which is not a diss. Animals is the best, but I don't want to be making my life decisions from there. I want to call Leah, and I want to call Marie, and I want to call my girls, and I want to be like, yo, is this chill? Like, what's going, like, help me to see this. And this is why we need coaches, and this is why we need therapists, and this is why we need communities like Anchored, and we need support groups, because while we rebuild our trust in ourselves and our sense of self, we need a witness. We need a loving witness to help us to see, like, are you tolerating, or is it like, no, girl, like, you do have to do the dishes half the time. Like, that's being a human in a relationship. Like, right. That's not an unreasonable request, but all the time maybe it is. That was a long answer,
but it was
perfect.
Beautiful
okay,
answer.
cool.
Yeah. And it touched on, reaching out and being honest with more people than just yourself, which I feel like is hard to do. And I wouldn't do it in my last relationship, at least. If something felt a little like fucked up, I would be too embarrassed to like share it with someone. And so I feel like that is, I don't know, it's so important.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And this thought just kind of came to me that, like, one of the most important parts of a thriving and successful romantic relationship is the friendships that you have outside of that relationship. So you're not, all the things we've talked about in the last hour, putting your eggs all in their basket, making them your universe, like making your sense of self all about them, making their responses your gospel, on and on and on,
Interesting you should say that, because I feel like it would be really fun to have a conversation on friendship and attachments.
Let's do it.
I would love to do that.
That would be really fun.
Yeah. Let's do a whole hour on it. I think that's so fun.
Yeah.
I mean, because also, like, really fulfilling friendships are part of your sex life, because then you can talk to your girlfriends and be like, peeing on each other. Let's discuss. Pro con. Do I need goggles? Oh, yes, I do. Okay.
We've literally been talking about how important friendship is in a sex life, and how it has benefited our sex lives so
for sure.
much. Yeah. So
for sure.
Absolutely.
Right. And there is this other thing that happens where you can, like, I don't know about you all, but like, I definitely, over Signal, of course, have like sent my girlfriends pictures of new lingerie and been like, I'm having an insecure minute and I'm about to get my period, and tell me if this is sexy or not before I put it on for this new date. Right. And then when Leah writes back and is like, babe, your boobs look amazing. Like, are you fucking kidding me with those tits? I'm like, oh, real. You know what I mean? It's like this beautiful thing where I'm borrowing some of her confidence as I build mine. Right. And it's not codependent, because I know what I'm doing. I'm being intentional. I'm being thoughtful. I'm being conscious. I'm like, I am having a low progesterone moment in which I'm not feeling as sexy as I could. I've done everything I can to boost myself. So I'm going to ask someone I love to co-regulate with me. And I know just who will tell me that my tits look great.
And I have the perfect person in mind.
Seriously. I mean, we all know. You all know who the girlfriend is who will be like, oh my God, look at those boobs. Just look at those. So
that would be so
let's do it.
So fun.
Yeah.
Can you remind people where they can contact you and reach you after this episode?
Fabulous. So many places. So I give really good gram over at Victoria Albina Wellness. Join me there. I've started dipping my toes into reels, which I never thought could happen because I am fucking verbose, but we're doing what we can in 60 seconds. We'll see what keeps happening. My podcast is called Feminist Wellness. It is for humans of all the genders. It is available every Thursday in all of the places. If you head on over to victoriaalbina.com/honeydew me, I've got a special present just for your listeners. It is a set of nervous system orienting exercises, inner child meditation, boundary meditation, bunch of beautiful meditations available just for you. Go download those for free right to your inbox. Isn't that fun? And then my 6-month program where we dive deeper into these topics using breath work, thought work, and somatic practices. It's the only program that brings together all that science and all that woo, is called Anchored. victoriaalbina.com/anchored. And those are the places. Yay.
Beautiful.
Okay, I'm taking my job seriously this time. And I'm fucking finally, am I right?
God, I've been waiting.
Pulling my own weight
2
in this
years.
company. And starting the outro because last time I didn't. And you were like, you literally always do it. And I forgot.
We had 30,000 people reach out about it.
I missed that. Thank you so much, Victoria, for being on the podcast again. We love your words of wisdom. And thank you to our listeners for coming back around another week.
Yeah, and why don't you go ahead and give us some words of wisdom? And by that, I mean really good reviews over on Apple Podcasts. You can rate, review, and subscribe. You can also rate us on Spotify. Leave your kindest words. No
words.
codependence here.
We're fine. We can be interdependent with you.
Yeah.
And just use you to help boost us. It's fine.
You're welcome. And then we'll boost you right now. You're amazing.
Yeah.
You're loved. You got a fat ass.
You got a thick ass. Fatty right behind you.
You're going to do great today.
Oh, that was cute.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.